I should have seen it coming. The fake concern, the sudden interest in my life, the way my mother kept asking how I was getting by with my little antique shop job, the way my sister, Melanie, went from openly mocking my career to suddenly needing my advice about jewelry. I should have known something was up, but nothing could have prepared me for what happened at Thanksgiving, because that was the night my entire family found out I was a millionaire. And that was the night they turned on me. It started with a stupid mistake. I had stepped away from the dinner table to check an online auction I was consulting on. My laptop was open in my childhood bedroom, running authentication software for a rare piece being sold in Hong Kong. I had multiple tabs open, client accounts, business earnings, my company's financials. And Melanie? She saw everything. I heard her fake little gasp before I even turned around. "Oh my God," she whispered. "This can't be right." I closed my laptop immediately, but it was too late. Her eyes darted to my face, then back to the screen, then back to my face. "Is this yours?" she asked, her voice shaking. I said nothing, because I knew what was about to happen, and I knew there was no stopping it. She stormed into the dining room, practically dragging me behind her. "Everyone, listen to this," she announced dramatically, slamming my laptop onto the table. The room went dead silent. 20 relatives, full of expensive catered food they assumed was store-bought, turned to look at her. Melanie flipped my laptop around and pointed at the screen. Then, in her shrillest voice, she announced, "Sarah is rich." My mother frowned. "What are you talking about?" Melanie jabbed at the screen like she had just discovered the crime of the century. "She has millions. $12 million. The room froze. Then, like a bomb going off, chaos erupted. Mom started gasping like she was about to faint. Dad's face turned purple. Aunt Lisa dropped her wine glass. And Melanie? She stood there, arms crossed, waiting for me to explain myself. Like I had betrayed them. Like I was the villain here. I took a deep breath. Then, as calmly as I could, I said, "Yes, I have money." That was it. That was all it took. And just like that, my family declared war. Mom was the first to speak. Her voice was sharp. "You mean to tell me that you've been sitting on millions while we've been struggling?" I sighed. I didn't hide anything. "You never asked." Dad slammed his fist on the table. "That's not the point. Your mother and I have worked so hard to support this family, and you did it without your help." I interrupted. Silence. For a brief moment, just a fraction of a second, my father looked shocked, like he had never actually considered that I had built this on my own. But then, his face twisted into rage. "You're selfish," he spat. "You should have told us. You should have been helping your family." There it was. They didn't care that I had worked my ass off for this. They didn't care that I had spent years building a business from nothing. They only cared about one thing. They wanted my money. I glanced at Melanie. She was smirking, smug, like she knew what was coming next. She leaned in dramatically. "Well," she said, her voice oozing with fake sympathy, "since you've been so blessed, don't you think it's time to give back?" Mom nodded furiously. "Yes, exactly. Your sister is drowning in student loans." Dad chimed in. "And your mother and I have been talking about retiring." Aunt Lisa, who literally never liked me, suddenly perked up. "And oh, my daughter needs help with a down payment on a house." It was like watching a pack of wolves circle a fresh kill. Every single one of them thought they were entitled to a piece of me. And that's when I snapped. I pushed back my chair and stood up. The room fell silent. Then I laughed. A sharp, humorless laugh. "Wow," I said. "That didn't take long." Mom's smile faltered. "Sarah, we're family." I held up a hand. "No, we are not doing this." I turned to Melanie. "You outed me," I said slowly. "You went through my laptop, violated my privacy, and exposed my finances to the entire family because you thought it would guilt me into giving you money." Melanie blinked. "I was just being a snake?" I finished for her. "Yeah, I noticed." She flushed. "That's not fair." "Oh, I'm not fair." I laughed again. "What's not fair is me working my ass off for years while you all ignored me. And now suddenly I matter." Dad stood up. "You don't talk to your family that way." I turned on him. "Oh, now you want to be my dad?" I snapped. "Now that I have money?" His face darkened. But I wasn't finished. I turned back to my mother. "You want to talk about struggling?" I said coldly. I've been sending you $7,000 a month for years. The color drained from her face. Wait, what? Melanie blurted. I turned to my sister. Yeah, I said. That money you've been bragging about? That fancy car? Those shopping sprees? That was me. Melanie staggered. She actually looked like she might faint. And Mom? She just stood there, frozen, because she knew there was nothing left to say. I grabbed my coat. This was a mistake, I muttered. Mom's voice wobbled. Sarah, please. We need to talk. I turned back to her one last time. No, I said simply. You need to talk about how you're going to survive without me. And then I walked out. I knew it was coming. The texts, the calls, the desperate attempts to fix what happened at Thanksgiving. I just didn't expect them to be so immediate. By the time I pulled into my driveway, my phone was blowing up. Mom, Dad, Melanie, even Aunt Lisa. Mom, Sarah, please call me. Let's talk about this. Dad, you don't turn your back on family. This is disgusting. Melanie, wow. So you're really leaving us high and dry? You're actually okay being a selfish BTCH. Asterisk. I stared at the messages. Then, I turned off my phone, because I wasn't falling for it. They weren't sorry for what they did. They were just sorry they failed. The next morning, I got a knock on my door. I debated ignoring it. But when I peeked through the peephole, it was Mom, and she looked bad, dark circles under her eyes, hands trembling, like she had spent the entire night crying. And against my better judgment, I let her in. She barely waited for me to close the door before she collapsed onto my couch, sobbing. Oh, Sarah, she whispered. I can't believe you'd do this to us. I crossed my arms. Do what exactly? She sniffled. Turn your back on family. I sighed. Mom, I didn't turn my back on anyone. She snapped her head up, eyes flashing with anger. Yes, you did, she cried. You walked out. You refused to even consider helping us. I scoffed. Because the only time you care about me is when I have something you want. Her lip trembled. And for the first time in years, I saw it. The realization. The recognition that I had figured them out. But instead of apologizing, she doubled down. You're being cruel, she whispered. I laughed. Cruel, I repeated. Mom, what's cruel is spending years treating me like an afterthought, and then the second you realize I have money, suddenly acting like I'm the center of your world. She winced. But I wasn't done. You had no problem ignoring me when I was working 80-hour weeks to build my business, I continued. No problem mocking me when you thought I was broke. Her voice was shaking. That's not. But the second Melanie finds out I'm rich? I said coldly. Suddenly, I'm important. She opened her mouth, closed it, because she knew I was right. Silence stretched between us. Then, finally she sighed. Sarah, she whispered, we're struggling. I sighed. Mom, your father is sick, she cut in. His medication is expensive. We have bills piling up. We're drowning. I clenched my jaw, because this was the real conversation. The real reason she was here. She wasn't here to apologize. She was here to negotiate. I exhaled slowly. What do you want from me? I asked. She hesitated. Then, 50,000, she whispered. I blinked. Excuse me? She bit her lip. If you could just give us $50,000, we could pay off our debts. We could breathe again. I stared at her. Because this was it. The proof. The confirmation that this was never about love. This was about money. I shook my head. No. Her face crumpled. Sarah, I'm not your bank. I snapped. You don't get to pretend to care about me just because you need a bailout. Tears welled in her eyes. I just don't understand how you can be so heartless. I scoffed. Me? Heartless? This, coming from the woman who never once supported me when I was struggling? The woman who never believed in me until she saw dollar signs? I took a deep breath. Then, I said the words I should have said years ago. You will never see a dime from me. Her eyes widened. I continued. I don't care how much you cry. I don't care how much you guilt-trip me. I don't care if you go to every single member of our family and tell them I'm a monster. She opened her mouth. I held up a hand. No, Mom, I said firmly. You have spent my entire life putting everyone else before me. But now, you get nothing. Tears streamed down her face. I can't believe you'd do this to us, she whispered. I smiled. Then you never really knew me, did you? She flinched. And then, she left. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. I expected the fallout. I knew Mom wouldn't just walk away and accept that I wasn't giving them a dime. I knew my family would turn on me the second they realized I was serious. But I still wasn't prepared for just how fast the smear campaign would begin. Because less than 24 hours after Mom left my house, my entire extended family was blowing up my phone. Aunt Lisa, who had never cared about my existence before this, suddenly had a lot to say. Aunt Lisa, I heard what you did to your mother. You should be ashamed. Cousin Rachel, wow, you really let money change you, huh? Guess we know who you really are now. Uncle Joe, your father is sick and you're just abandoning them? This is disgraceful. Sarah, the messages just kept coming. And I ignored every single one because I knew exactly what was happening. Mom had gone to everyone with her sob story, twisting the narrative to make me look like the villain. She probably cried about how ungrateful I was, how she had sacrificed everything for me, and now I was selfishly hoarding my wealth while they struggled. It was classic manipulation, and it might have worked if I hadn't already been done with them. By the next morning, the situation escalated. I woke up to a Facebook post, not just any post, a long, dramatic, public letter from my mother. It started with, I never thought I'd see the day where my own child would turn her back on the family that raised her, and got worse from there. She painted herself as the struggling, loving mother who had given me everything she had. She conveniently left out the part where she had neglected me for years while favoring Melanie. She left out the part where I had already been sending them money for years. She left out the truth. And the comments? Oh, they were eating it up. Comment number 1. Oh my God. How could she do this to you? Comment number 2. This is disgusting. Money really does change people. Comment number 3. She'll regret this when it's too late. You deserve better. And then, right at the bottom, Melanie. I always knew she was selfish. Guess she finally showed her true colors. I laughed, because of course Melanie was eating this up. She had always wanted me to be the bad guy. And now, she finally had her excuse. I took a sip of coffee, staring at the screen. Then, I did the only thing that made sense. I commented, Me, interesting how you left out the part where I sent you $7,000 a month for years. Funny how you didn't mention how you and Melanie laughed at me when you thought I was broke. Or how the only time you started caring about me was when you realized I had money. Me, if you're going to tell a story, Mom, at least tell the whole truth. And then, I hit post. The reaction was instant. The comments turned. People who had been on my mom's side started questioning things. Comment number 1. Wait, is this true? Comment number 2. $7,000 a month? That's more than most people make in a job. Comment number 3. If she was really sending money, why are you acting like she abandoned you? It was glorious, because suddenly, Mom's carefully crafted victim act started to crumble. And then, she called me. I let it ring, because I knew exactly what she was going to say. She was going to demand I take my comment down. She was going to cry, scream, manipulate, whatever it took to regain control of the narrative. But I was done playing her game. Instead of answering, I sent her a text. Me, you wanted to make this public. Now deal with the consequences. And for the first time in my life, I felt no guilt. But the real fun happened later that evening, because that's when Dad called me. Unlike Mom, he didn't do dramatics. He was cold, angry, controlled. And when I answered, he went right for the kill. You're humiliating this family, he spat. I smiled. No, Dad. Mom humiliated herself when she decided to blast me on social media. Silence. Then, you could fix this, he said. Just send the money. Delete the comment. Let this all go away. I laughed out loud. Wow, I said. You really think that's going to work? His voice was sharp. We raised you. I smirked. No, you raised Melanie. I raised myself. Another silence. And then, he said the words I knew were coming. If you walk away from this family, you're dead to us. I took a deep breath. Then I smiled. And I said good. Then I hung up. Blocked his number. Blocked Mom. Blocked every single person who had sided with them. Because they had made their choice. And now, they were going to have to live with it. Cutting them off should have been the end of it. But my family? They didn't know how to let go. Even after I blocked them, they found ways to get to me. Fake numbers. Mutual friends. Emails filled with rage and guilt tripping. They weren't just mad. They were desperate because now they knew they had officially lost me, and they couldn't stand it. A week after the Facebook fiasco, I got an email from an unknown sender. At first, I thought it was spam, but then I opened it and immediately felt sick. It was from Melanie. Subject: Sarah, we need to talk. I don't know why you're doing this. I don't know why you're trying to punish everyone just because you got some money, but you're making a mistake. Mom and Dad aren't going to live forever. Do you really want to go through life knowing you abandoned them? Knowing that one day they'll be gone and you won't get the chance to make things right? I hope you come to your senses before it's too late. I stared at the screen. Then I laughed because this was their last move. Guilt. The same tire manipulation they had been using on me my entire life. And it wasn't going to work. I took a deep breath. Then I typed my response. Me, you still don't get it, do you? I didn't abandon anyone. I just stopped letting you all take advantage of me. I don't regret a single thing. And if you ever email me again, I won't even bother reading it. Goodbye, Melanie. Then I hit send and blocked her too. After that, things finally went quiet. No more emails. No more texts. No more fake apologies trying to lure me back in. It was over. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. In the weeks that followed, I realized something. For years, I had been the forgotten child, the invisible one. But the moment they found out I had money, I became valuable. Not as a person, as a resource. And the second they realized they couldn't use me, I went back to being nothing to them. And that told me everything I needed to know. A few months later, I got coffee with an old friend. Lisa had known me since college. She had seen me struggle, had watched me work tirelessly to build something from the ground up. And when I told her about what happened with my family, she just shook her head. You did the right thing, she said. I smiled. I know, because I did. For the first time in my entire life, I put myself first, and I never looked back.